Adam Pearce meets with Bronson Reed, who complains about not being booked on the show despite beating Sheamus last week. And Sheamus got a match tonight and realizes I need to carve my own path, which was an ominous warning for what was to come. Then CM Punk starts off the second hour. Huge reaction for him. So he says he's happy despite losing on SummerSlam because he hasn't been to Baltimore in 10 years. And when he's knocked down, he gets back up. And some people hate that he doesn't stay down. He says, I was told that I would be out for 9 months in January. I did it in 5, which I think everyone was doing the counting here, and it didn't quite add up, but close enough.
How many months was it?
I mean, end of January till let's give him end of July. That's 6 months.
So, yeah, okay, well, maybe he was ready before.
He still beat it. He still beat it by 3 months.
Well, he's counting to the point where he actually was cleared.
Well, I don't think he was cleared 5 weeks ago, but sure, we'll round back for him for the sake of his timing here. It's a tremendous recovery, seriously, for a guy like this, and we know how long he was out for the last triceps tear as well. So he says that
that's what happens when you have doctors that are recommended, rather than I guess him having to find his own doctors, as he would say.
He could have gone in that direction in this promo. Thankfully, he didn't. He said he is back. SummerSlam was the start of my road to WrestleMania, and the summer of hate didn't begin the way I wanted, but it's still summer. And he needs less talking, more fighting. He wants Drew McIntyre again. But before Drew comes out, it's Seth Rollins. And he comes out, and if Saturday was his ode to Shawn Michaels, tonight it was his nod to Kevin Diesel Nash. Because he was out in this whole leather tassel contraption that he was wearing, and says he is in a good mood too, because after 10 years, it's finally time for me to put you in the dirt. And they are about to fight, but Drew McIntyre appears in the audience and gloats about the win. Punk, you brought the fight. You proved you can still go, but you're no longer the best in the world. I am. And he shows off the bracelet, and this is too much for Punk. He's got Rollins in his crosshairs, but that goddamn bracelet, and he runs out into the crowd, runs after Drew, and that eliminates those two from the equation. And as Rollins is left in the ring, Bronson Reed jumps him out of nowhere, lays him out with a DVD, pair of sentons, and then one tsunami. 2 tsunamis. The officials are in. They're checking. Reed climbs back up. He hits a 3rd tsunami. He climbs up and hits a 4th, a 5th. And every time the crowd is just enjoying this more and more. They're treating this like it's like this guy is just like hitting home runs blindfolded. They're amazed by this power being demonstrated. They're chanting one more time at Reed, and he hits a 6th tsunami. Rollins is coughing up blood, and then he climbs up for another. They finally get Rollins out of the way, and the crowd actually boos when Rollins is away. They were so into Bronson Reed hitting these tsunamis. This reminded me of like Vader taking out Gorilla Monsoon. I thought this angle was great. This was the best thing they've done with Bronson Reed, period. I'd include NXT. Like, he had much more to write home about at NXT than the main roster, but this to me was the strongest angle they've done with this guy this whole time.
It was a very old school feeling type of angle to me, and for me it reminded me of Yokozuna hitting 3 bonsai drops to Hacksaw Jim Duggan in a row. As a child, that was like a moment that I think I was
what if he had buried Seth in the American flag after this?
That would have just kind of made it even worse. But yeah, like I thought Hacksaw Jim Duggan was dead. And maybe some children out there, or were crying, to their parents. What happened to Seth, mommy? Well,
turns out he didn't put CM Punk in the dirt, but someone else did.
No, he got swept up here in the tsunami.
This was great, and you're going to get a hell of a match out of these two as well. And I just thought this, like, you made a guy on Raw. Like, this instantly elevated Reed. I don't think anyone saw this being a Fallout program when you had really set up this like 3-way program that you still have Rollins attached to with Drew and Punk, but this certainly feels as though this is going to occupy Seth and keep Drew with Punk.
Totally. I think they've done such a great job of simultaneously building both Rollins and Punk and Drew and Punk at the same time here coming out of SummerSlam. I think there was some criticism I saw from people talking about how Seth just kind of felt a bit like shoved into what should have been a grudge match between Drew and Punk, but I think they managed to do it in a very like organic way, or at least in a way that like simultaneously makes both of those programs feel hotter. I think Rollins versus Punk feels hotter than ever, with Punk attacking him at SummerSlam and then them nearly coming to blows tonight. Like tonight was essentially, hey, we're about to give you the match, but just wait, we're gonna get to it later. And the sort of get to it later is Drew versus Punk, which is hotter than ever after the result on Saturday. So Punk has two simultaneous, very strong programs right now that are like both being built up really well. And I love the struggle on Punk's face as Drew was showing off the bracelet and like Punk was locking eyes with Seth because he was about to like, engage in this brawl. But Punk, you could see the struggle in his face as he was trying to ignore Drew. And it's almost as if like for CM Punk, anything to do with the bracelet, it causes an involuntary reaction that his body just can't physically ignore. And he has to take his attention away from it. And he has to get that bracelet because he's that obsessed. I love that sort of like flaw for especially a babyface here. And then of course you got Bronson Reed being added into this whole thing in about, I think, as magnificent of a way as you could want for somebody who up until this point has been pretty much a forgotten mid-carder, but he's got a really over finisher, and they emphasize that to times 100 here. They do something that they do really rarely, and that's have him spam a finisher over and over and over and again to the 5. That was rare. Now this scenario, it did start to feel pretty ridiculous with all these people in the ring here. Okay, when Hacksaw Jim Duggan took 3 bonsai drops from Yokozuna, there weren't like 5, how many? 10 people in the ring there who could have gotten him out of the way. Seth had these 10 people that were just standing there when you had every opportunity. I would say after the 3rd tsunami, okay, you kind of know what this guy's going to be doing. Maybe let's roll this dude out of the ring, or at least out of position from, where this man could dive. But it's like, he's getting to the top rope. We can't do anything. Let's just, all we could do is wave our hands. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Got a great reaction, put the finisher over strongly, and finally gave Reed this like identifiable, memorable moment in his career that I think he's been lacking ever since he's been called up. And he immediately gets shot up there to have a feud with one of the top baby faces in the entire company.
Yeah, I think it's often a mistake when they like, it's like the adage of why 10 chair shots when you could get the effectiveness out of one that's really sold great. And they really love to do the over and over and over again. And I typically feel it's diminishing returns. I did not feel that in this one because this audience got more and more intense with each successive one. I think I think Rollins, you really need to have him sell this significantly, to really establish this tsunami. I just thought this was a great angle to get Reed up and running to a big spot for whenever this match is done. And the audience, they loved it. Not exactly sympathetic towards Seth Rollins for this, but they were just loving the chaos of it all and watching a 350-pound dude jump off the top turnbuckle 6 times.
Yeah, I liked it. Let's see what the follow-up is.